Zach Lavine is the best upcoming free agent for the 2022 offseason. Obviously, we have guys like James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Kyrie Irving, but they all have player options and are more than likely going to opt in. But Zach Lavine is completely on the table, no options, unrestricted free agent. The sweepstakes have begun for the Chicago Star. Lavine has played 5 years for the Bulls, averaging 24.4 points, 4.4 assists, and 4.7 rebounds, making two All-Star teams with his time with the team. Now, the Chicago Bulls have obviously shown they want to build around the star and Zach Lavine because last year they went all in for trading for Vucevic at the trade deadline, trading multiple draft picks, which one of those draft picks turned into Franz Wagner for the Orlando Magic, who's looking like an absolute stud. Later that summer, they signed DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, all in the same offseason to really bolster that backcourt. And the Bulls got off to a really great start this year. Everyone was looking at them more like pretenders. No one really thought they were actual contenders, but definitely a step up from last year. Despite the Bulls' great start this year, they got beat in 5 games versus the Bucks in the first round. And just keeping it real, they didn't really stand a chance versus the Bucks. Everyone thought that series was over before it even started. The Bulls at one point in the season were the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, and they almost fell all the way into the play-in. This was due to a lot of injuries. Lonzo Ball got injured in January. He missed the remainder of the season. Zach Lavine had a tweaked knee, which was kept him in and out of the rotation. Alex Caruso had multiple injuries. Vooch missed some time beginning of the season. This team could never really stay healthy, as well as Patrick Williams getting injured in the first couple games and not coming back until the end of the season. Another kryptonite for the Bulls was playing versus top teams. At one point in the season, they were 1-16 versus top teams in the Eastern and Western Conference. And that one win was versus the Boston Celtics before they caught fire. I don't know if y'all remember, but the Bulls came back down like 20 points with like 6 minutes left in the game versus Celtics. And after that, the Celtics turned into the team they are now. All in all, it was an up and down season for the Bulls, but definitely an improvement from last season. And this season was Lavine's first playoff appearance in his career, which is insane because he's now an 8-year pro. So with all that said, there's a ton of speculation on what Lavine's going to do this offseason. He is the best free agent, so there's a lot of teams very interested in him, and obviously the Chicago Bulls are going to put their best foot forward into re-signing him. And it's depending on if they're going to try to go and give him the max. This summer is going to be very interesting for Lavine. He is the main target for a lot of teams, and he was recently interviewed, and this is what he had to say about returning to the Chicago Bulls. So starting out, a quote he had was, "Obviously, I understand the relationship I have with Arturis. Everybody here, I've been here for the last 5 years, and I've really enjoyed my time. I think this city, and I hope everyone understands how much I care about the Bulls and what I've done for this city and things like that. Going into everything open-minded, but understanding that my time here has been great." I'm going to paraphrase this quote here to the most important part. Obviously, this is a business, and everyone is going to try to take advantage of everybody at a certain point. Going into negotiations, but I'm glad I get to view it from afar. Next, he said, "I have to do this as a business decision. I do not just view one way as I'm automatically coming back, or I'm automatically leaving, things like that. It's unrestricted free agency. I think for my family, for me, I have to go and look at this as a decision where I need to be open-eyed." After those quotes, I don't know about you guys, but I have no idea what Lavine's going to do here. He seems very indecisive what he wants to do. So let's get into the facts of what returning to Chicago Bulls will look like. So remember what I said earlier about Lavine saying people can try to take advantage of the situation? Well, back when he was restricted free agent for Chicago, fresh off his ACL injury, the Bulls did not want to offer him a contract, yet they waited for Sacramento to give him an offer, and then they matched the offer sheet because he was a restricted free agency. And I think that's going to come back and bite the Bulls when it comes to contract negotiations. They waited for another team to set the price for him, which was not a max contract, which is going to play a part in Lavine's loyalty to the Bulls because they weren't as loyal to him fresh off that injury. So the Bulls can offer Zach Lavine a 5-year, $212 million extension, which is more money than any other team can offer him. We know this. We know that the home team can re-sign the max extension for another year plus more money. This incentivizes players to stay where they at instead of shifting around. In terms of these quotes that he's saying, I really don't think that money is going to be a huge factor in his decision making, because if money was really the main factor for him, I think his quotes would have been a little differently about pretty much just re-signing with the Bulls, because this is the biggest deal he can get, especially with his knee injury. If he's offered this max contract, who knows what he's going to look like 5 years from now. So I think if money was really the main focus, his quotes would be a little differently here. So moving on from the Chicago Bulls. And now Lavine was battling his knee injury towards the end of the season and even missed the last playoff game. Now there's speculation and rumors that Lavine is going to need a minor surgery on the knee. He's not going to miss a large amount of time. I think he's rumored to miss a couple games of the season starting next year. But that's something they have to take into account because they pay him all this money. That's a huge investment towards a player that you're uncertainty about his health, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. So I think that's something that the Bulls are weighing right now. And is he worth the max contract? Well, since the Bulls went all in for him, to bring players to Chicago like DeRozan, like Vooch, like Lonzo. They invested a lot of money, and for Zach Lavine to walk away, then they're no longer like a great team. I mean, they're a good team, but they're not going to be a great team because they're missing Lavine's 25 points per game just walking out the door. So I think the Bulls have no other choice but to offer him this max contract, and the Bulls haven't really signed a big free agent, as of recent memory. There's no point in holding on to that cap space as of right now for next season. DeMar DeRozan was a huge free agency signing for them, but he wasn't a marquee free agent because he looked like he was declining in San Antonio, and people were saying that originally that DeMar move was the worst one of the season, like was the worst move in the Bulls offseason. But things have changed in Chicago, and I think their backs against the wall with this, with Lavine. I think they have no other choice but to give him the money, and Lavine definitely deserves it. He's been very underrated as a player, really only getting the attention he needs now because he's the best free agent of the class. And he's also finally making all-star teams, which he deserved to make years before he even made his first one. So Chicago doesn't really have an option at this point, in my opinion. They have thrown all their chips in the table, trading away draft picks, maximizing their cap space. Zach Lavine is just the final piece of the puzzle to lock up for the next couple of years, so this team can make a serious run. I'll look in the next couple of years, and we still have Lonzo, and we still have Caruso. DeMar is still in his prime. He's really reasserted himself, and Vucevic is still a solid player. You also have Patrick Williams as a great wing defender. You have Ayo Dosunmu, who's proven to be a really solid guard for them. So they have a good core, and they really need to bring Lavine back for this whole thing to work and for this big investment to be worth it.